There's never been a better time to have SiriusXM. With even more exclusive content, with over 150 channels in your vehicle, including the widest, deepest variety of music, ad-free. Root for your team. Get news. Listen to whatever makes you laugh. And hear all about your favorite stars. Your Platinum Plan offer includes more than ever before to enjoy online, on your phone, or at home. Create your own ad-free personalized stations powered by Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels filled with music and enjoy a favorite shows with SiriusXM Video. Thousands of hours of shows and performances on demand. What you love is on now.
For over 4 decades, Rockford Fosgate has not only led, but has been a clear innovator in the car audio industry. Today, we've got their product expert, once again, Eric Russell, in the studio with us, along with a special guest that's going to give us an insight of why Rockford continues to rock. This is CMA Connected, presented by SiriusXM, Rockford Fosgate, and it starts now. Hey guys, what's going on? And thanks for tuning in to another CMA Connected presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Now, if you're like me, a little bit old school, you can certainly appreciate the brand that we have on today in the studio. We're talking about Rockford Fosgate, of course. And I remember clear as if it was yesterday when I was dreaming about having those Rockford punches in my car and going to the sound offs and just seeing all the guys with the gear and said, one day, that's the kind of gear I want. Well, 40 years later, I can't believe how crazy it's been. The brand continues to thrive. It continues to lead. It has certainly diversified its offering into multiple categories, including motorcycle, marine, power sports. But car audio is Rockford Fosgate at its core. So to talk about that, let's bring in our guest from Automobility, who's their Canadian distributor, Mr. Steve Colombe, their product manager.
Hey, Ben.
Steve, Rockford Fosgate, man, this brand, like we've done the bike stuff, we've done the power sports stuff, but now we're talking about car audio, where it all began. It's like, it brings me all the way back to those days. Even you and I, we used to go to the car shows together, and like it was a thing, right, to have this brand in your car. Yeah. Why does Rockford continue to be such a favorite after all these years, even through everything that's happened in the industry?
Well, as you mentioned, 4 decades, over 4 decades, pretty much. You know, they celebrated the 40th anniversary back in 2020. You know, got their party crashed by, you know, everyone knows what happened with the COVID, so which sucks. But, you know, the acknowledgement in the audio industry, the mobile industry for the brand itself, Rockford Fosgate. If you're in the audio business, you know about Rockford Fosgate. There's no way you don't know about it, right? So, you know.
100%. You said it right. There is no way you don't know about it, and for just cause. And I think we're going to find out some of those reasons today. But we have Eric coming in. We're definitely going to talk about some product as well. There's a huge line of car audio product within the range. What are you most excited to learn about today?
A couple of things, as you just mentioned. We'll go through some key product over the vast, you know, offering on the portfolio of Rockford. You know, we could do a show, a full week of product coverage. No, we'll touch base on, Eric's going to touch base on key products on the lineup. And on the second half, as you mentioned, we're going to have a special guest, Brent, which is a hardcore competitor, you know, enthusiast. And the most important thing, he's a shop owner, you know.
Clutch. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like all of you watching, you know, so that's pretty interesting.
So we're going to talk about some product, maybe some hidden gems in the lineup that need a little bit of focus on. And we're going to have Brent Leavitt, and we're going to learn all about him and also hear his opinion as a shop owner as well, you know, selling the brand. So let's get the stage set proper. We got a video that's going to set the mood. Let's see what Rockford Fosgate's all about these days. Let's roll the tape.
I don't understand why you're thinking of. You've had me at a low. I don't understand why you're thinking of. You've had me at a
You know what that video reminds me of, Steve? That time when we didn't care if we had a trunk or any space in the trunk.
Trunk space was an option.
Option wasn't even necessary. Who cares? Who cares? There was no replacement for displacement. Just saying. All right. Let's go ahead and bring on our product specialist. Eric Russell is his name. His official title is Senior Digital Strategist, but we know he does a little bit more than that. Eric, thanks for coming on to the show today.
Thanks for having me on, Ben.
This one's a good one. I really look forward to this one. This one's about car audio at its core, its roots. We're bringing it back. And, you know, we know that you've been there for a long time. And when you started there, Rockford only made car audio, right? There was no other categories at the time.
Right. So I started in 1989 in a small building across the street, and we just focused on car audio. And so starting in 1980 is when the corporation bought the company from Jim Fosgate. Jim Fosgate started his initial business back in 1973. And so we purchased Fosgate Audionics as a corporation. And so since 1980, we've been continuing that legacy and just taking it to the next level. You know, with great power comes great responsibility, and Jim Fosgate's legacy really set the stage for us. So we have a lot of important work that we continue to do, and we're happy with the products that we develop here in Tempe, Arizona.
It's an amazing story from Arizona. I've had the pleasure of visiting that plant myself, and I look forward to doing it again because it's been a couple of years. But here's the question for you, Eric. You know, I mentioned, and everybody knows this, like, you know, motorcycle, power sports, marine. There's been an expansion of the brand and the variety of products that Rockford offers. But how has Rockford maintained the stature that it continues to have in car audio after all these years?
Well, car audio is our core business. As you know, like I say, in the early days, right, we only were doing car audio, and it has expanded exponentially into other markets. And it really comes down to the people and the environment here at Rockford, here in Tempe. You know, we have a lot of leeway and freedom to do what's right for the customer, do what's right for the product line. And that comes all the way down from our CEO, Bill Jackson. He is involved in the product development cycles, understanding what it takes. Our engineering team here in Tempe, they take fresh new approaches to each new product. That way we can develop the product that the customer really wants to have in their car.
And that makes a lot of sense. And everything, you know, that whole purpose-built thing is so true. And car audio is no exception, right? No, car audio is no exception to that rule.
Purpose-built audio, that's what it's all about. Take it to the next level.
So talking about taking it to the next level, we've got you going. We're going to go through pretty much the entire lineup, which is cool. I definitely want to I hope anyways, fingers crossed, that you talk a little bit about the importance of the power ratings, because I know that was a topic that we brought up in the last session. I want you to make sure that we get that message across, because I think that's going to be really critical for dealers to understand, right, when it comes to the way Rockford rates their stuff. And also, we have a special guest. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what to expect from that afterwards?
So sure. So after we talk about signal processors, we're going to go into amplifiers, and we'll cover that power rating that we talked about in other shows. We're going to talk about subwoofers, loaded and component subwoofers, and then we'll talk about accessories. And then at the very end, to save the best for last, we've got our team member. He is a part of the group here, Brent Leavitt. He's a phenomenal competitor and quite an ambassador. And we'll just wait till the end until you have the interview with him. It's going to be
no spoilers. All right. Well, on that note, Mr. Russell, we're going to go ahead and pass you the mic and give you the stage so we can learn all about the current Rockford Fosgate car audio offering.
All right. So let's go ahead and start off with our DSR1. This is a digital signal processor for car audio. Now, there's two components to this DSR1 that a lot of installers don't really know. There's a normal aftermarket signal processor, so you can run inputs and outputs just to a standard RCA to an amplifier. And there's also an iData Maestro chip inside, so it allows us to talk over the CAN bus via T-harness to a lot of modern vehicles that have digitally operated systems. So let's start off at the top. The DSR1 has 4 inputs, high level or low level, and it has 2 auxiliary inputs. So what I like to do with these auxiliary inputs is I use our Bluetooth adapter, and then that way I can stream Bluetooth audio straight from my mobile device right into the audio system natively. And of course, this is all controlled through an iPhone or an Android app. So it's a lot of power in your hands. A lot of outputs. You've got 8 channels. These are completely configurable in the software. Crossover is variable from 20 hertz to 10 kilohertz. So you have a lot of range there. And then the crossovers are 6 dB to 48 dB slope adjustable Linkwitz-Riley. So again, a lot of flexibility with this digital signal processor. And then, so let's go back to that CAN bus. This will allow you with the T-harness to integrate into the electronics. So these are for systems where you have a source unit that's digitally controlling an amplifier. There's a fixed signal coming from the radio to the amplifier, and the amplifier actually changes the volume, changes the balance, changes the fader, not the radio itself. The radio is just sending the commands over CAN bus. So with this CAN bus input right here, this allows us to talk directly to Ford, Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, Subaru, Toyota, and Lexus. It allows you a turnkey system to replace that factory amplifier, and then you can add your aftermarket system to it. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. And then what's great about this, to take it one step more, we can replace this output plug, and with our Harley-Davidson T-harness, you just plug this in, and then you get a front, rear, and subwoofer out from the DSR-1 directly. So it gives you a lot of flexibility in both CAN bus systems for vehicles and for Harley-Davidson motorcycles when you need to tweak and tune an audio system. So let's go ahead and continue on with amplifier performance. So there's a graphic that Ben's going to show here in just a moment, and I really want to talk about continuous versus dynamic output. And with our amplifiers, any amplifier, whether it's an R2 or a Punch or a Power Series, you get a performance verification certificate. And what this certificate does is it tests about 200 data points on the amplifier, and we summarize it here as the birth sheet. That's what's commonly called. And then it gives you a number of the real world continuous output power. So with our new M5 amplifier series, we started publishing a secondary number, which we typically have only been doing in owner's manuals, but we wanted to put it out there in the verification certificate. So this is dynamic output power. And so the difference between continuous and dynamic, continuous is an amplifier on a test bench with a fixed load resistor and a sine wave. So that's great for testing the amplifier and comparing your own line to your amplifiers or with competitor amplifiers. So that gives you a baseline test. However, dynamic power is connecting the amplifier to an actual speaker. So speakers produce a very complex load. It's not a resistive load. There is inductive loads from the voice coil winding, capacitive loads for any sort of passive crossovers that you have in the system, and the resistive loads, the DCR of the voice coil. So there's actually a very complex dynamic load that when you connect the speaker to an amp, and we test it, we replicate music using what was the IHF 202 standard. It's now a part of the CTA 2006 standard, and it's a burst signal at a certain on and off duration. It allows you to mimic audio the way it was intended to be listened to. And so the amplifier responds to that dynamic load differently than when it's on the test bench with a fixed load. So you're actually going to get a little bit more power. So what's really interesting is amplifiers like this one that have a proprietary patented circuit that Brent's going to talk about later. You're going to actually see a lot more, exponentially more power dynamically than a traditional Class AB or a Class D amplifier. And what we use is what's called PowerCube. So that is a company out of Sweden, and it's a very expensive product. It's a very expensive test equipment, and that's why a lot of companies don't use this. They use the traditional methods on the bench to measure output power. Well, we want to give you more information. We want to give the installers and the salesmen on the floor more information, because a customer might come in and say, okay, I know that the Rockford amp is going to produce more than what it's rated for. What is it really going to produce? And that's what we hear over and over and over. What is the real world output? So we are going to start putting the dynamic power out on the PVCs, as you'll see it in the owner's manuals. And again, this isn't new. We've been doing dynamic output power since the invention of the Punch 40, Punch 60, Punch 100, and Punch 200 back in the 90s. So you would see that at the very top as dynamic power output, IHF 202, and then you would see the continuous power output. So let's go ahead and jump into the amplifiers. I'm going to start off with the R2 series amplifier. Now, at this level, it's got a lot of the Rockford Fosgate punch and power that you would normally expect from an amplifier, but at a really, really cost-efficient price point. So there are 8 models total. These amplifiers feature high and low inputs. There's a DC sensing switch in here where you can defeat that. It has differential input, so it's going to reject any noise that comes into the amplifier. And it does have our proprietary clean clipping circuitry. Now that was famous with our punch series amplifiers and the compact power. So we did increase the viability of the amplifier by putting it in this R2 series. Now these are all Class D amplifiers, 12 dB per octave crossovers. These do employ rollback circuitry. So for this customer at this level, they want to have the amplifier performing all the time. Now it may be under some hands that are pretty abusive. So the rollback circuitry allows that customer to drive the amplifier however they need and not have to worry about it coming back into the warranty shop. And what's also really cool is the remote level control. Now this is a very tactile feel. You might not think very much of this, but the tactile feel of this new remote control is something that we're going to start using on other product lines as we go further. It just gives you a nice level control that doesn't feel cheap. And of course, there's a cast heat sink. So this isn't just an extruded heat sink. This is cast with our proprietary die. So I get a lot of customers that talk about, yeah, this R2 amplifier is great, but I want it at the price at a budget amplifier that I can buy only on the internet. And I tell them, okay, so as a sales guy, this is how to pitch this. I can take away the cast heatsink and put it in an extruded. I can take away the clean circuitry that everybody wants. And I can take away the differential inputs. And usually the customer says, well, then it's the same as the other amplifier that I'm trying to buy. Well, there's the value in it. This value at this price point is a lot. So the die-cast heatsink, the clean circuitry, the differential inputs, it's all Rockford Fosgate DNA. It's not another Me Too brand. So we're really, really proud of this amplifier series. It's very, very popular in Canada. So I know that Steve is having a hard time trying to keep these in stock because they're in such high demand. And then I want to talk about the punch series. So over here, we've got our punch full-size amplifiers. We have 9 amplifiers in total. Now, these have a lot of the technologies that were inherited into the younger brother, the R2, the high and low level inputs, differential inputs, clean. Now, these are all Class AB amplifiers. So these are sound quality oriented. Now, the Class BD amplifier, which is the 500X1 BD, that is a Class BD topology. So that's the only one that's different. The 5-channel amplifier, this is kind of our sleeper. This is one of these great amplifiers that is a hidden gem. So it's 125 watts for 4 channels at 2 ohms. The subwoofer channel is 500 watts at 1 ohm. Now it does incorporate a 28 hertz infrasonic 12 dB per octave filter. So this is really one of my favorite amplifiers. This one and the R2 5-channel are my favorite because it's a 1 amp solution. You can drive the entire system from it. And then of course we have in the punch lineup, we have 3 compact amplifiers. They're not shown here, but we have a 300X1, a 300X2, and a 400X4D. Now these are boosted rail type amplifiers. They're about the size of the Power Minis. They don't traditionally use a switching power supply. They use what's called a boosted rail. So it's like a charge pump. So it conserves energy when it can, and then when it needs to deliver the power output, it can burst that to the speakers. So the 400X4D is a Class D topology, so that is a slightly different power supply, but the boosted rail for the mono amp and the 2-channel amp have been very, very popular. We actually designed it for OEM, and because it was so current conserved, we were able to adapt that for aftermarket car audio, and it's great for golf carts, you know, things that have really, really sensitive electrical systems. They're a great, great amplifier. Then, of course, we have the big brothers, the Power Series amplifiers. So we have 7 full-size amplifiers and 4 of the compact amplifiers. These all feature Class AB, or the compact are Class AD. And then we have the big brothers The mono amps, now those all feature the CP, the patented technology, constant power. So I want to go ahead and switch over to subwoofers. And I'm going to roll this rack right over here. And we've got a bunch of our punch powered loaded enclosures. So these are all-in-one solutions. They have a built-in amplifier. So these are available in an 8, a 10, and a 12 for standard hatchbacks. And then we have a 10 and a 12 with the wedge on the opposite side for truck installations. And then we have the big boy right here, the P512P. This is a 500 watt, 12-inch subwoofer. This thing just hammers in SUVs and in hatchbacks. It's a lot of power. It's an all-in-one solution. There's a phase response, or excuse me, a phase adjustment, crossover, and remote level control that come with these. These have been super popular in Canada and in the States. So we have been selling these like crazy. So I want to go ahead and get into our Punch series model. So this is a cutaway of a Punch P3 driver. So let me see if I can get this oriented here so you can see better. So this Punch driver, they all feature vast surround. So the difference is the surround is actually attached vertically, not on a flat landing. So this gives you more radiating cone area, and it helps reduce that stress point on the surround. So this model, you can see there's dual spiders. The tinsel leads are woven within the spiders themselves. And the difference with Rockford Fosgate woofers compared to a lot of others on the market is they utilize aluminum voice coil formers. So that helps us dissipate a lot more heat away from these woofers. And that's why you hear a lot of customers saying, man, I can throw this much power to these speakers, and they just continue to take it and take it and take it. That's because of the aluminum voice coil formers. It's like a heat sink for the voice coil. So it helps dissipate all that. And then we can go ahead and jump into the lineup. So we've got 26 models in total. We have 3 series, a P1, a P2, and a P3. So that was the P312 that I had in my hands. That is a 600 watt rated speaker. Sealed volume is 1 cubic foot, and vented is 1.8 cubic feet. And then of course we have a shallow lineup, 8, 10, and 12. So those are a 400 watt driver. Sealed is 1 cubic foot, and vented is 1.25 cubic feet. And of course, we're talking about Rockford Fosgate, right? So I need to talk about the big ones, the Power Series, the T2 and T3 superwoofer. So the T2 is available in a 13 and a 16 inch. The 13 is 2,000 watts. The 16 is 2,500. And this is continuous power. These are CTA 2031 certified. And then the T3 19 superwoofer, 3,000 watts. That's a lot of power. It's actually the most power that we've produced on the production line. And we had to build special racks just in order to test them. And each woofer that comes off the production line gets that special test. And of course, we have one of my favorites, the Power T1 Slim. Now, this is available in both a 10 inch and a 12 inch. The 10 inch is a 500 watt rated speaker. The 12 inch is 600 watts. The 10 inch is 0.8 sealed or 1.5 vented. And then the 12 inch is 1.1 sealed or 2 cubic foot vented. If you're looking for a normal high performance woofer, but you don't have a lot of space, this is the ticket. This is one of those hidden gems in the lineup. I don't absolutely know how our engineering team developed when we went from the normal standard size T1 woofer, like what you just saw with the P3, to the more compact slim one design. It produces the same amount of output. So we actually discontinued the T1 to produce, the T0 to produce the T1 because it had similar performance characteristics. So it utilizes 2 main technologies. One is an encapsulated voice coil and a split yoke. So basically what it does is it pushes the voice coil up underneath that dust cap. That's why it looks a little bulbous, because the voice coil is directly underneath this, and it's captive in a channel. So it won't twist or turn, so you get very, very linear response from it. And the excursion capability out of that configuration is phenomenal. It is a patented design. This is one of our best-selling subwoofers, along with the P312. And then, of course, I want to talk about accessories, right? We've got great amplifiers, we've got great audio components, but how do you make sure that you get the right amount of current from the electrical system to the audio? Well, Rockford Fosgate offers AWG spec cables and they are 100% oxygen-free copper. These are not aluminum. We're not producing more insulation with the same outer diameter. You can see the specs on our website. It shows the exact number of strands in each cable diameter. So these are really great kits. And what's awesome is Automobility is extending our warranty policy. So what's really cool, if you look at the back of your performance verification certificate, on the back you see what's called Engineered to Rock. And so what this does, if you buy the corresponding Rockford Fosgate wiring kit with your amplifier, you're going to extend your warranty by 1 year. So for Prime and Punch series amplifiers, you're going to go from a 1-year warranty to a 2-year. And then if you have a Power series amplifier, like the one behind me, or a Marine amplifier, you're going to go from 2 years to 3 years worth of warranty. So it just goes to show that Rockford Fosgate backs up what we say. The electrical system will be sound with our wiring kit, and it's going to perform with our Rockford Fosgate product. So that's what you have, Ben, for the product lineup. Some hidden gems, some really cool features. What did I miss?
Eric, you didn't miss much, man. As usual, you do a very, very thorough job. Of course, I have a couple of questions I'm going to save for the end and when we circle back. But for now, I'm going to give you a quick break because I'm going to let you take a breath. We have another video to play. And when we come back, I'm going to get Mr. Brent Leavitt in the studio and see what he's all about. We'll be right back. All right. So, Eric, lots of different questions for you. The one thing I did want to bring up real quick, we didn't get a chance to show that clip when you were talking about the Power Cube. We have an image here that I want to bring up. If you don't mind, Sean, let's bring up the image called Power Cube. And I want Eric to speak to this because this is a very important point when it comes to the power ratings from Rockford Fosgate. So yeah. The image is about to come up. Go ahead and talk to us about this.
There we go. So the image on the left is what we might see when we're developing an amplifier. And that's what I talked about earlier, a very complex load. At the very bottom, you can see on the left, it's a capacitive load that we're looking at. And then just to the right of that, you'll see an inductive load. So the voice coil winding on the speaker itself. And then on the right side, you see it's measuring the actual resistance of the speaker system. So this gives us a 3D map of the amplifier, and depending on if the amplifier is going into premature protection or if it's overheating, you will see this on this 3-dimensional graph, and that exposes those deficiencies as we're producing the amplifier, because parts tolerances can change. So we run it on the Power Cube to make sure that the amplifier can deliver everything that it's supposed to deliver. And then of course, on the right side, you see the final result, which is almost a perfect cube. It's supposed to be very cubic in nature. And that tells us that at every impedance load, that amplifier is going to perform just exactly the way we want it. Flat.
Understood. Yeah, I thought that visual really drives home that message. So I want to circle back to that if you didn't mind. Okay. Talk to us real quick about this Brent Leavitt character that we have on. Who is he to Rockford Fosgate?
Brent's a great guy. So really what it comes down to, I'm going to use that same phrase, with great power comes with great responsibility. And Brent has proven this. I've known Brent for years. We have talked on forums for a long time. I have looked at Brent's installations. He started off with this red blazer. And when he showed like the creativity and the installation techniques that he was using, I'm like, this guy's got something legit. He's got a talent. And then when we started talking to each other on forums, it's like, this is a really nice guy. And that's what I love about Brent. And that's what Rockford Fosgate loves about Brent. He doesn't have a chip on his shoulder. He doesn't have some sort of persona that he needs to strive to be. You can walk up to him at a competition, and it's just like you and I having a conversation right now.
Awesome.
Down-to-earth guy. His family is all involved. He's just a great guy to be with and a great competitor to represent the brand.
All right. Well, that's a great intro. I hope Brent gives you that $5 for that one. No, but we're really excited to have him on the show. We have a quick video that Rockford produced, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. It gives you a taste for what Mr. Brent Leavitt is all about. Let's go ahead and roll that tape.
The Astrovan started out as like an idea. And so I started out building it and it just kept expanding bigger and bigger. Pretty quick it went to construct everything to be as extreme as possible. I wanted to build something beyond my ability. My name is Brent Leavitt and my purpose is to set the bar higher every single time, and Rockford allows me to do that.
All right, let's go ahead and bring this gentleman on to the show. Mr. Brent Leavitt joining us. How's it going, Brent?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Well, very excited to have you on. Seen that, I remember that video when it came out. I was like, wow, this guy's van is absolutely sick. So I want to get into that for sure. First of all, thank you for taking the time to join us. I know it's a work day. But why don't we get to know you a little bit? Tell us a little bit about your professional career in the 12-volt industry.
Okay, so I started as a hobbyist, like every kid. And once I turned 18, it was like 1995. I started my professional career as an installer. And I've continued to be an installer since then. So 2 decades I have been installing, and now I'm a shop owner and I get the chance to run around and compete all over. So
that's pretty. So let me get this right. You started as an installer. You probably worked at a bunch of different shops, right?
Yeah, I worked
getting
at
some
every
experience.
shop I could.
And somehow then you ended up being real serious about competition. We're going to get into that in a second. So help me connect the dots. Where did it go from that to this really strong relationship that we see that you have with Rockford Fosgate?
So when it started, like I was the guy that was kind of building up. I wish I had a Rockford system back in the day. And then like as soon as I started getting bigger and bigger, I started using all Rockford. I was the kid that like sent all the pictures to Rockford and trying to show them what I'm building. And and then I worked my way up from there to like a full-blown relationship with them now, where like I could talk to them about anything. I know almost everybody that's there. So
do you remember that moment where they actually got back to you?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I
had the moment was like they took one of my photos and put it in the Volume magazine, and I was so excited, like just to have that one little photo in there. And now it's evolved into something so much bigger. And I still get that feeling like every time I see a video, like, wow, that's me up there. It's crazy.
That's incredible. I mean, obviously you are pretty branded, or you bleed Rockford Fosgate. We've seen that. Was that a sub that I saw that holds your hose?
Yeah,
That
there's
video?
a T319 hose reel.
Amazing. And just to clarify, so you are a shop owner. The name of your shop is?
Low Notes Garage here in Boise, Idaho.
You're in Boise, Idaho, and obviously you install and sell Rockford Fosgate gear as well.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. Let's get the people, our audience, to know, what your credentials are. We've got a couple images here of the vehicle that was featured in that little video clip, and I want you to talk us through it a little bit. I got some questions for you, if that's okay.
Okay.
All right, so let's go ahead and put up these images. So obviously this first image, Brent, is from the inside looking backwards over the front and the 2 front seats. And I mean, what size are these? What are we looking at here?
So those are the Rockford T319 super woofers. And there's 4 of them in there, and that's a bandpass enclosure. So the size of that enclosure is roughly about 80 to 90 cubic feet. So it takes the entire inside of the van up.
Whole 80 to 90 cubic feet for 4 woofers. Holy, that's a lot of volume. Okay. And these are the same woofers that Eric was talking about earlier. So we're talking, what is that, 3,000 watts handling per, if I'm not mistaken, if I caught that right?
Yep.
Okay. So this is the back view. So basically you got, obviously you're doing hair tricks with this car. There's no doubt about it in my mind. Let's go to the next slide here. Oh my goodness. Okay. So that's all Rockford wiring as well.
Yeah. Everything in this vehicle is Rockford Fosgate. So that right there is a side shot. That's just the mid and high section. So you have like 3 1004s. And then all the crossovers for the mids and highs. There's 5 sets of T3 components up front. So this controls everything. The DSR1 at the bottom. and then all the crossovers in bi-amp mode. There's equipment stuffed in every opening in this vehicle.
I can see that. So all those are crossovers on the left and right. So you're using the actual passive crossovers, but you're bi-amping them through the amplifiers. And that's, I'm going to guess that's mostly 0 gauge. I mean, it looks really thick.
Yeah, it's 0 gauge right to the point it needs to be 4 gauge to get in those amps.
So what is that part on top of the amplifiers that I see with the wood?
The wood grain, there's a window there, so you can actually see inside the speaker enclosure while it's playing if you're outside the vehicle.
Gotcha. So you actually see the woofers going from the outside.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's all lit and beautiful. Okay, so I get it. There's a lot of gear. There's no question about it. Let's get. Well, it gets even more interesting. Talk to us about this setup here.
So that is the back of the Astro van all opened up. The little doors. That's what in competition world we call a stunt wall. So if I want to like overwhelm the crowd with my music, I got to switch to turn those on. There's 8 BD 2500 CPs running all 4 of those woofers. So I have 2 amps per woofer in BD sync mode. It's powered by lithium, all Rockford Fosgate wire, fuse holders. And then the back of that enclosure is all 1.25 inch thick acrylic window. So you can see everything moving.
Okay, so now I understand. Was a little bit of a visual trick that they're playing here, because I thought you said there was a bandpass enclosure, but then I said, but it's all open. There is an acrylic wall that allows us to see the back of those woofers. Now I understand. Okay. These speakers that you have on the swing outdoors, these aren't, are those marine speakers? Yeah,
those are the M2 8-inch marine speakers. So out of all the Rockford products, those are the loudest. If you want to project to like a huge crowd, those do a fantastic job.
Yeah, this is like the tailgate mode. I totally get it.
Yeah.
Now you said each amplifier, so you basically have 2 amps per sub, so you got an amplifier per coil.
Well, they're single voice coil woofers, so they're synced together in one channel mode. So
how much power are you driving to those woofers?
Typically, when we clamp it at comps, I get 5,000 to 5,500 to each woofer. So.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
A little more than they're rated for, but they've been holding up fine.
And what is that piece in the middle above the fuse holders? The black piece of the 2 looks like dials, or
so there's sweet meters that I had done that match the meters that come on the amplifiers themselves. So when the music playing, I have little LED meters that go left and right. But that black area there, that's a lithium battery, because this is all powered by lithium.
Gotcha. Very good. I think we have one last image here. Yeah, there it is, a little bit of a close-up of what we were talking about there. So those are lithium batteries under. Oh, I see. That's
a
behind those gauges are lithium. Understood. I mean, where did you come up with this design, this idea? Like, what was the influence? What was the inspiration to get to this point?
Well, I really love the look of bar top and epoxy, but I also like sci-fi and space style stuff. Like, I'm a big sci-fi fan. So like kind of envision Star Wars mixed with wood grain is kind of what I wanted to do. And that's the way it turned out. Like the positioning of the amps, I wanted to be able to see the woofers a lot. So that kind of dictated the only place I could put the amps is where they're at. But, you know, sci-fi is kind of the way I looked at it, like redesign the whole vehicle the exact way I wanted. I didn't really have to match the car's interior or anything.
Now that you mention it, Brent, this feels like I'm an X-Wing. I need to come in here and drop the bomb right on top of those lithium batteries to blow up the Death Star. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Okay, so I have another question for you. Sorry, I have a lot of questions. You told me there's how many cubic feet of space for those subs?
About 90.
What was the 9? Okay, so how did you reinforce that with a full acrylic wall like that with this amount of pressure those subs are pounding out?
So it's like the entire van first started out as like 2x4 construction, solid, not space 2x4s, just construct a shell out of 2x4s, layer of MDF, layer of Baltic birch, layer of MDF. So the whole enclosure is like 4 inches thick all the way around.
Oh, okay. That's what we don't see.
The back section you can see, that's the sealed section. and that sealed box fires into a gigantic ported box to give me the frequency range I'm looking for.
Now I understand. I wish there was like a diagram of a cutout, like, you know, that we can understand how all this air travels. But now that you've explained it, thank you very much. I totally understand it. Okay, let's go ahead and take these off for a second. I've got one more question for you before we bring back the other guys. You know, obviously Rockford's a huge partner of yours. You know, you do incredible work. You've probably had the opportunity to maybe laterally move perhaps to other brands, to other circumstances. So I'd like to hear from you. Why have you stuck with Rockford all this time?
I've always been a fan of the product and the people. I've always been friends with the people, but the products never let me down. I mean, I've been running Rockford for 20 years and I collect Rockford stuff, and most of the stuff I collect still works. So like the brand has never, I mean, they never have failures. All the equipment I run, I've never even sent it in for warranty, and I beat the crap out of it. I mean, if it's set up properly, it'll last forever. But like the whole Rockford family is just amazing to deal with. I like anything I've ever needed, I could just call and I get somebody on the phone like that. And they've just been great to me over the years.
Well, it certainly shows that your passion continues to flourish. Before I get on the other guys, where is this going? Like, you have this vehicle. I heard you have another competition vehicle as well. Are you just constantly putting out these ridiculous builds?
I want to, yeah. I love the big builds. Like when it's not technically for a customer, when it's for myself, it's really enjoyable to like challenge myself. I don't ever intend to stop. Like the van will keep going, competing for probably 5 more years, while simultaneously I'll still be building another project, a couple more actually.
Really, really cool. Okay, on that note, let's go ahead and bring back Eric and Steve so we can have a little bit of a discussion here. We got a lot to talk about. We had Eric show us a bunch of different products. Now we got to know Brent a little bit. So let's combine all these elements together and have a little powwow on everything. So let's go ahead and bring everybody back. Eric, Steve, thanks for hanging out. Eric, out of the gate, I mean, this partnership with this guy, he's crazy. Who did you bring to us? This is amazing.
Just takes it to a whole new level. And that's what we love about Brent is, you know, a competitor can walk up to him and ask him questions about his build, and he's not gonna keep it close to his chest. He's actually gonna tell you what he's done in his own builds, suggestions for what a customer can do in their own vehicle. So we just had a great relationship with him. You know, our director Tammy Lowe has had a great friendship with him outside of the relationship. And so when Brent's at a show, he's representing Rockford Fosgate at car audio shows, and he takes the job for seriously. And but he's also a really cool guy to just kind of hang out with.
Well, I can definitely see that. I want to hear this vehicle one day, Brent. That if I'm ever in the neighborhood, you promised me a little demo of that. Steve, any comments you have for Brent?
Well, I have a question actually, Brent. Like, how would you recommend Rockford to other car audio dealers?
Well, it almost speaks for itself, but like I love Rockford for a couple different reasons. Like if you look back over the history up to the current product, like the product's beautiful. And then like real world, when you go out and compete, I've actually tested the technologies they use, like the BDCP stuff. When I go compete, I try to play low frequency that most people wouldn't bother with, but the CP technology is constant power. So what it does is it fights impedance rise and tries to produce the same amount of power at any frequency, which works great for me because when I give demos, I play 25 hertz, which on a lot of amps won't produce a whole lot of power. On Rockford, I get full power at 25 hertz, and I can also do that all the way up at 50 hertz when I play like the burp frequencies in competition. So I've been able to track the performance of CP over the years compared to other stuff, and it's amazing. On top of the fact, the product's beautiful. I mean, gloss black and the sweet meters. I love everything about Rockford. So, I mean, I never have failures. Maybe one piece of equipment in this whole van in the last 3 years is all I've even destroyed. So,
and you're trying to destroy it. Let's be clear.
I-
Like, you're not a normal user. Like, you
yes,
are
I
trying
try to
to
destroy it. Like when I go to finals, it's all the way or nothing. So,
Mhm.
and it survives some of the most brutal beatings.
So help me. Let's share with that experience. I mean, do you use your competitive experience from what you've learned and the experience you have with the gear to translate into sales when you're talking to customers? And how do you do
Yeah,
that?
yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, you have to, because a lot of these customers go online and then they see all the competition talk and they start using terms that like some salesmen may have never heard before, like box rise and what class somebody's in. But so I like if you get a customer and he talks about competing, like it translates instantly. Like I could, for instance, I could produce a system capable of a set value. Like if somebody says they want 150 dB system, they want to be that loud guy. I know exactly what it takes to get 150 dB. As long as that, all the equipment's there, I can produce that. So when I can produce results, I can make sales. If I could tell you, I could guarantee you 145 dB and give you an example, they'll go with you all day long if you know the results you can produce. So
Predictable
competition
results is key.
actually helps.
Okay, so now I'm going to flip the script on you. Those are for the customers that want the loud. What about the average customer? You know, comes in, he has a budget in mind, he just wants a great sound system, and he comes to you and says, Brent, you know, I know you do it big up like that. I don't need this, but would you recommend for me? Like, how do you translate that into the more regular, normal sales?
That's not even a big deal at all. Like, if you look at any of my vehicles, you know what brand that I love, and obviously I can speak the reliability of the brand. So it translates instantly. I could sell you, like a basic amp and sub setup just based on what I've done here. A lot of people, like, if you could see an example of something, it makes a sale way easier. Like having a demo car, even on this scale, it always translates into a sale.
Very, very good. Eric, what else do you have? We've got Brent here. We've got Steve. I'd like to hear what message you have. I mean, there's a reason why you brought Brent here, right?
Well, yeah, and Brent brought up a really good point. You know, demo vehicle on the show floor is really important for a dealership. So highlight some of those product lines at your dealership in the car, because like what Brent says, when a customer comes in and listens to it, they're going to connect all the pieces together. It's going to make a lot more sense to them. We can just talk face to face as much as we want, but once they sit in and hear it for themselves, that really makes a huge impact with the customers.
Yeah, a lot that art of the demo has kind of gone away a little bit. I think it needs to come back. I think the art of the demo to sell gear is absolutely crucial. I think it's the difference between the shops that absolutely kill it and the shops that are like, oh, it's slow. I think that's a big part of it. I'm going to ask Brent a question. So you're sitting in the back watching Eric's presentation. He mentioned a couple hidden gems. What's for you as a dealer? What are a couple of hidden gems in the Rockford lineup in every category?
I think the head unit category is quite overlooked because of all the Rockford Marine decks. Those decks can also be applied to car. In my environment, like at a competition environment, those Marine decks are like hidden gems because those are so reliable and amazing. And then I think a lot of sound quality dudes sleep on the upper end components for Rockford, because apples for oranges, they are amazing speakers. Amazing speakers.
Is that what do you use in the front end of your vehicles?
They are T3 components in pretty much everything I have here right now. And I absolutely love them. Like, they can handle abuse. And then, like I said, I compete in a musical class, so I'm graded on sound quality, some of this competition stuff. And I have got almost perfect scores at a few shows. So it's amazing. Like,
that's what the T3 components that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Guys, I think that's a great. I love this. We should do this all the time. Please bring me more Brents. This is great. I love seeing the builds. I like seeing the passion behind it. It gets me amped up to build a vehicle, and I think that's why we should be all about, is be inspiring dealers to do what Brent does, right? And this is what it's all about. On that note, Brent, I want to say thank you for taking the time. Thank you for sharing us your passion. Thank you for talking to us about all the crazy car that you built and everything else that you brought to the table. So thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure.
All right, take care. And Eric, we'll say bye to you too. Eric, always a pleasure, always a professional. Thank you for the refresher and also a couple inside insights as far as the hidden gems in the catalog. And we look forward to you coming back again soon.
Thanks for having me on again, Ben. We'll see you later.
Take care, guys. Mr. Colomb, I'm
Yes,
going to ask
sir.
you a hard question. I'm going to bring Steve back here before we let everybody go. Steve, I'm amped. I don't know about you, but if I was to ask you, Steve, what would you put in your car based on the presentation today? What would that be?
In my weekend car or my daily drive car? Because, you know, back in the days, we didn't care about trunk space.
We didn't. I
No.
didn't. I know I did. I'll speak for myself. I did not care.
We did not care.
No, we didn't care.
Grocery bags were on the back seat or in the
Grocery
passenger
bags.
seat.
What's that?
We
Who
didn't
cares
care.
about that? Nobody cares.
Right. No, it's a very good question. You know, I would go for the best power to size ratio to limit, you know, taking too much space. I'd say the mini power.
Eric mentioned that. Pretty popular, and it draws less current as well.
Correct. It's the Class D amp. So I mean, I think I would go down that road with you know, of course, the components.
T3s?
Components, T2s, T3s, of course.
What sub though? What sub?
The T1S that Eric talked about earlier. Look, the power rating, and again, as he told us, they removed an actual line, the T0. They removed it because that T1S was matching and had the same spec as the T0. So it does a lot. So I would go with
Makes
small power, you know, well balanced. Weekend car, it's a different story. We'll load the trunk.
I'll take it. I'll take your answer. It's a good answer. I know you're like, yeah, there's a lot of options, but I'll take it. I want to remind everybody, of course, if you're interested in some Rockford Fosgate gear and you happen to be in Canada, get a hold of Auto Mobility. There it is, automob.ca. Steve and his team will for sure take care of you. Last thing, you know, Rockford Fosgate's a big brand. You guys have your own social media dedicated just for the Canadian market, don't you?
Yes, we do actually. You know, and the best compliment we got from Rockford in the past sessions and last year is, you know, they said we're an extension from them into Canada, right? So we worked hard with them to create more social media presence and coverage for our Canadian dealers through the Canadian market. So we, you know, since last year and the start of COVID, we put a lot of efforts in social media, which is, you know, the new thing, right? So we do a lot of you know, dealer spotlights, dealer installs.
I think that's so important, Steve, that you guys are showcasing Canadian dealers and the work and the installs that they do. So Rockford Fosgate Canada on both, is it Facebook,
Instagram,
and Instagram.
We also have some private dealer groups, which your sales rep can inform you about. Again,
if you guys are a Rockford dealer, you're not in these groups, I don't know what you're doing. I'm sure
Reach
the
out to your
mobility team has some pretty juicy info in there.
A lot of goodies in there.
Lots of goodies in there. That's it, Steve. We're going to wrap it here. Thank you so much again for bringing Rockford to the table and for appearing yourself and taking time out of your busy schedule. And we'll talk to you on the next one.
Sir, thanks for your time, Ben.
Take care. All right. So that was Rockford Fosgate Car Audio. Big shout out to Eric Russell as well as Brent Leavitt for showing up. Of course, learned a lot there. Want to remind you to continue tuning in to CMA Networks for our ongoing coverage of the car audio sessions. We're going right through to Wednesday, June 15th, at least for the first session. But this is what it's all about for the next few weeks, guys. It's all about car audio, one brand at a time. Of course, if you haven't already, check out cmanetworks.com. It's all new, all revamped. Search for your favorite videos, either by category, by brand, or even search out your favorite trainer. My man Eric Russell has his own profile there. You can go ahead and check that out as well. And that's it. Thanks for tuning in once again to CMA Connected, presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.
I mean, yeah, let's talk about
Stop
you know
it.
what today where I'm going to
Yo. Roll it down.
I am.
You don't need a car to listen to Sirius XM. You can listen anywhere. You know that, right?
What? Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio.
Kevin, you could use your phone.
What? What?
Alexa, play Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio on Sirius XM.
What?
This is how I know you're getting old. I guess that was it.
What?